Sawadee and welcome to another episode here for the Fun Get Pod. It's Monday and you know what it means. We talk about all things MMA, and as always we don't review the fights, of course, because there are 1,000 out there. For example, Morning Combat, and I still think Luke Thomas is not having the best time right now. He seems a bit, maybe it's still COVID, under the weather. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, because that last session, Luke, if you're listening or watching, and I know you do, of course, it sounded a bit like TFA take. You know which one I mean, the one the dude that does the food tracks and stuff. So it sounded a bit like this. So I hope you're getting better soon, because usually the sessions are more coherent. I'm the one to talk about coherency. I'll try to make it more coherent now, and let's talk about the things that we usually talk about on here, which is like the stories, the storytelling, and of course also how the media portrays things, how the media is being used to highlight certain fights, bouts, stories, and the like. But let's dive into the past fight night that we've just seen, Rodriguez versus Ortega Rodriguez. However you want to slice it, it ended very anticlimactic, of course. What's from here now? So, of course, you could run it back, which would make sense at some point. However, of course, you have to wait until Brian Ortega is healthy again, so that might take a while with a dislocated shoulder, I believe. I never had a dislocated shoulder. I dislocated my knee once, and it took forever until I was able to even go jogging again. So maybe that's something that we need to look into, like how long is this going to take. So in the meantime, you would of course be able to do other pairings. I think the UFC should focus on highlighting now that probably going to do an interim title if Volkanovski is out for a bit longer between Rodriguez and Josh Emmett, which could be something that you could highlight. There are ways to that point. You could highlight that Rodriguez had fights with the best of them. Of course, you could highlight that Emmett is on a streak right now. Both of them should also be out there calling for it, I believe, or at least calling for more recognition, because they're both not the most outspoken ones, and usually something that I appreciate. But I think when you're clamoring for a title, I think you need to be a bit more outspoken. Therefore, Ortega, of course, has to get well soon. But then, of course, you have the arc that of he's coming back to fight Yair, because that fight didn't really end in a fashion that a fight should end. So then, of course, you have the rematch there. And if Yair would be the interim champ/champ there, this would of course make sense. From my personal point of view, I'm okay with the interim if Volkanovski is out, but then I actually think Volkanovski should defend his title first before moving up to another weight class. Otherwise, this weight class has just been out for too long without a champ, depending on how long it takes, of course, to recover from, I think, a broken hand. I'm not sure. Okay, so that's that. Then what else did we have? We had Misha Waterson versus Amanda Lemos. Michelle Waterson Gomez, for the first time that she's using the name of her husband as well, I think. And yeah, I'm not sure if she still wants to do it. I mean, her posts on social media are all like, that fight alive and stuff, and the weight cut was awesome, and she looked shredded. But the first round was just too much like hitting air, in my opinion. I mean, she had a few like side kicks, a few teeps and stuff, but we're not here to review fights. So where do you go from here? Now that they're both not the youngest anymore, but Lemos, of course, has a few impressive wins on her record right now. She did lose to Andrade though in that standing guillotine. So I think she needs like one or two more to really be in the conversation. So she's of course also not too outspoken as a Brazilian. Of course, it's hard in English. So I think they just slowly push her up the rankings. I think Michelle Watson Gomez was 11 or so, 10-11. So I think then Amanda Lemos takes that place, that spot. And they just slowly build her up to the fight, 9-8-7 or something like this. For Michelle Watson Gomez, it's a bit sad, because I'm based in Thailand, as you know, so and she's repping Thailand at least a little bit once in a while with her mom and so on. It's tough. She lost 4 out of the last 5, I believe. It's tough. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't want any fighter to retire, especially not her. But I don't know what she could do. I mean, she changed weight classes, so I don't know what else there is to do. And even if she were to retire at some point soon, it should be on a win, ideally. I mean, fighters barely ever retire on wins. Yes, I know, but it just would be nice. One last redemption arc. Is that possible? Like going out on your own terms. Maybe that's something that she could push via social media, and then the UFC embedded could help with that. She wants not to go out on her own terms. She wants to decide when it's done and all said and done, and that's why she's working hard for the comeback. Maybe that's a story that they could tell, and that's an arc they could choose. Similar, I think, probably for Misha Tate. Misha Tate versus Lauren Murphy. I mean, Lauren Murphy just pieced her up, of course. Misha Tate also changed the weight class there, right? Or maybe did Michelle Waters and Gomez not change, and Misha Tate changed the weight class? Yeah, Lauren Murphy just looked faster, stronger. Faster, harder, stronger. So where do you go from here? Lauren Murphy, right back now in the talks, I guess, if you beat Misha Tate, even though Misha Tate didn't have an impressive record as of late, but it's Misha Tate. So if you beat someone with that name, of course, you're back in the mix. She says the right things on the microphone. She doesn't have the aura, I think, to captivate as much, but she says the right things. She's like, I'm not done. I'm a bad MF. And I'm right back in the mix. So she says the right things. She's going to do the right things on social media, I believe. And the story's there now that she's got more experience. She recovered from her loss to Valentina. Yeah, maybe that's where you go next. As for Misha Tate, it's tough. That maybe here's the redemption arc even better. Like, I don't want to go out on 2 losses. I have to, I don't know, find myself one last time. The retirement fight, maybe that's something that you could do here, I think, and then the UFC could also help build this up with another embedded or so. Let's end on 2 positives. So when we talk about what happened at the fight night, we had Matt Schnell with the comeback of comebacks, which was awesome. You should sell that, Schnell that. I had to do it. You should Schnell that, of course. This is going to be in all of the lots of future UFC, I don't know, embedded intros, whatever. That submission. And I don't know if he's the right person to do this. I don't think he's going to milk it. I would milk it. If I would be the UFC or I would be the fighter, you would see like 10, 12 pictures, videos of me like pulling off that submission and that comeback. So I think that's something that's also good for his next fight. I mean, he was ranked number 8. I think his opponent wasn't ranked. I'm not sure. So he's not going to get many ranking points for that, as if that's a real thing. But that's definitely something also for the next fight, and that you can sell like Matt Schnell on, like, have you seen this fight? Insanity. And I think people are going to tune in for him whenever he's going to, or wherever he fights on the card, I think. So that's awesome for a storytelling point of view and how a UFC is going to use that. The last thing that I found pretty interesting was Litchingliang bouncing back after the Khamzat loss. The thing is, he always does the same thing. Again, I'm not reviewing fights, but he always does the same thing. He dips and then throws the heavy overhead right. In this case, it worked. I'm not sure if it's always going to work. So, but yeah, Luke Thomas actually made a good point. So hey, good look. Good on you, Luke. He said like the striking, I don't know how he was very diverse, like 33% legs, body, and head. So that was very good. So well done to Litchingliang. Let's see how that works against another better, tougher opponent again. But that was a nice bounce back win. So I appreciate that. I don't know if they're going to promote Chinese fighters unless they're really in a title fight. To be honest, the UFC that is. So, but he's very outspoken. He's very like emotional, which is nice. Which is also a bit different to most Chinese fighters that we see. So I think you could do something there. The bounce back win after Khamzat, and now he's like on the upward trajectory again. He's got the most finishes in that weight class by hands, I think, by punches next to Matt Brown, I believe. So that's something you could sell probably as well. So I think that's a bit of a story arc that you could go with. And I think he's in the top 15, right? So I think then, of course, up to greener pastures. Okay, let's look ahead. What are we going to see this week, and what are the stories there? Of course, the big one, and it's just, I can't believe it's just a fight night and it's not a pay-per-view. So the main event, of course, Curtis Blades versus Tom Aspinall. The story, of course, is that the UFC clearly pushing Aspinall as the next big thing from UK MMA. Which can never be a bad thing. Just ask Darren Till. Sorry, I had to. That's going to be, I mean, from a fight perspective, it's going to be super interesting. The build-up now that we're in the week of the fight, the build-up, I mean, Aspinall was on all the podcasts, but otherwise, Curtis Blades hasn't been really vocal. I haven't seen anything from him. So he could have been like a bit more vocal in the build-up here, I believe. To borrow from Chael Sonnen, like you have to sell your own fights. No one else going to do it. So tough there, because so for me right now, Aspinall the clear favorite, simply because I've seen him everywhere all the time, and I haven't seen Curtis Blades anywhere. Even though we know how good Curtis Blades is, of course, but he just wasn't anywhere to be seen. It's in London, so if Aspinall wins, of course, the roof's going to blow off and he's going to be in line for a title shot, no questions asked. If Blades wins, I think Blades are also going to be in for a title shot, probably, or an interim title, or whatever they're going to do in that division. But yeah, I mean, I don't analyze fights, but it's going to be an interesting fight. To then talk about what stories come out of that. What else do we have? We have Jack Hermansen versus Chris Action Man Curtis, because that Darren Till had to drop out, and the Action Man took it on short notice, and he said in an interview with Ariel, I think it was Ariel, he said he's got nothing to lose. He got like a new contract, gets more money. If he loses, it's on short notice, so doesn't lose any stock there. If he wins, he's the hero, and that's why he took it. That's honest, that makes sense. And that's the story. The story is like Chris Curtis takes every fight anywhere all the time. He did this before already, the short notice fight. If he wins, he's off to the races. He's in title contention probably. If Jack Hermansen wins, yeah, I mean, he's bounced a bit back and forth now. But the story would be the story of redemption, of course, that he bounces back and that he wants another shot at the top, of course. So that would be the story arc here. A bit more interesting from a story point of view, and not from a fight point of view, maybe also, but I'm a big Chris Curtis, I like Chris Curtis. I like watching him. I like listening to him. He seems very grounded, so I'm looking forward to that, but I also, of course, look forward to the third fight on the card, which is Paddy Pimblett versus Jordan Levitt. First, I can't believe Paddy makes weight again. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, the way he blows up, this should be a UFC embedded all by itself. Like, Paddy Pimblett's weight cut should be a whole UFC embedded. Like, from 270 pounds, kilos probably, to then whatever he is at I don't know, is it 70 kilos? Snows. Wrestling with my cat while I'm doing a podcast. What are you doing? For those who don't watch and who just listen, my cat just attacked me. Almost a rear naked choke that she got in there. All right. So where were we? Oh yeah, Paddy Pimblett. So his weight stuff. It's ridiculous, like how he blows up. The fight itself. I mean, Jordan Levitt is to take from Michael Bisping is no slouch. Could they have done a better job promoting that fight up until now? I think so. Maybe, I mean, now we're in the week of the fight, so I assume there's going to be more of Jordan Levitt twerking and more of Paddy saying, I'm going to knock him out and Scousers don't get knocked out and so on. So I think we're going to see lots of that. But then again, it's a Paddy Pimblett fight. Paddy Pimblett fight in England doesn't need any build-up. Of course, the people are going to go crazy either way. Depending on how that ends, of course, if Paddy wins, I mean, Jordan Levitt isn't a top 10 fighter just yet, but it's the biggest win on Paddy's resume. If Levitt wins, it's vice versa. So you can then build either fighter up from coming out of the fight, depending on how that ends, of course. We then have Nikola Krylov versus Alexander Gustafsson. Gustafsson in his comeback fight, another comeback fight for Alex Gustafsson. Again, have to see how that goes. The theme of today's podcast is redemption, because Gus doesn't clearly looking for redemption. Of course, Krylov again, Michael Bisping, no slouch of his own. I feel I could host a Bisping podcast by now. So that should be interesting. Again, if Gus doesn't win, you could be like, okay, he's on his last run. If he wins, if he doesn't win, hard to sell anything going out of that. And I think that's gonna. He might just call it quits then. And then what else do we have? There are a few more stories that we have, but we also and my cat is attacking my legs right now. John Danaher ankle lock. Oh my god! So I think that those are those are some of the more intriguing stories going in there, or fights going in there, that could have potential interesting stories coming out of it. Wait and see, right? I mean, that's what we always have to do. But I'm just looking again one last time at the fight card, and there is no super mega intriguing story going in. But it's all very interesting fights, and I think every fight could have an interesting story once it's done. You're like, okay, this happened. Now we see the trajectory of each fighter. I mean, Gustafsson probably has the highest stakes in terms of. That might be it if he loses, which is tough, of course. But yeah, I mean, Paddy might have his hype train shortened if he loses. So there are stakes there, which I'm looking forward to then checking in after the fight night to see like what actually happened with those fights and with those stories. Again, by the way, I also assume that obviously BT Sport is going to do an awesome job just hyping that stuff. I think the UFC doesn't need to do that much probably anyways. They're going to hype this to no extent. They're going to have like pre-shows, mid-shows, after-shows, pre-weigh-in, weigh-in, and whatever. So I think BT Sports, they're doing a great job anyways, and since it's a British card, they're going to do a great job hyping this whole thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're doing, and maybe I should focus more on what BT Sports is doing rather than on what the UFC itself is doing. Last thing that I wanted to talk about in regards to the UFC is, of course, the whole Nate Diaz disaster. Here the media is doing a great job, at least the MMA media, of course, because they're picking up everything that Diaz is saying. I'm a bit bored of MMA fighting, to be honest, because if you listen to Ariel Helwani interviews, which are great, of course, Ariel is awesome. Not going to beef with you like other MMA podcasters. But then you know what Nate said, and then now MMA fighting, obviously, because, I mean, the interviews are on MMA fighting, but then now the website, of course, like writes an article about every single thing that Nate said, which is a bit annoying. Anyways, of course, the MMA media picks it up, posts all the time, everywhere, anywhere, on Instagram or Facebook, on all the websites. Nate is doing a good job right now, and who would have thought that I'm going to say that while I'm looking where she's attacking me from under the chair. Is doing a good job using media. Who would have thought I'm going to say that? Because usually Nate is like, whatever. But I mean, he's talking to Ariel, his posts. He's more active than ever. I know he's active anyways, but he's more active than ever on Twitter and on Instagram. He's on all the Dana White posts and stuff. So good job, Nate Diaz's media team. This has to end soon, of course. I mean, they're gonna give him like a fight very last minute, probably, or like at the end of the contract, or close to the end of the contract, so that he has to fight one more time. But this is a very interesting thing. I think seeing like how Nate is trying to utilize the media and how the UFC is trying to not utilize the media in this case and just ignore it. And Dana White being very, very alert to Nate Diaz's questions right now. Okay, that's enough UFC talk. Let's also look at there are a few other things happening actually. Bellator is on again. Did you know? No, of course you didn't, because no one knows that Bellator is on. Even with Douglas Lima fighting. One of the best fighters on the planet. And no one knows, because Bellator, and I say it every single time we have a podcast, I say Bellator just sucks when it comes to promoting things. No one knows that you're on Friday or on Saturday. Douglas Lima fighting. Get Douglas Lima out of Bellator. Get him somewhere else. Even One Championship does a better job hyping fights. It's ridiculous. Then, BKFC, bare knuckle, and it's very important for me, surprising for me as someone in Thailand who does lots of Muay Thai, who's very much into the Muay Thai scene here. They signed Buakaw. If you're into Muay Thai, if you know Muay Thai, or even K1 kickboxing from back in the day, Buakaw, like the Thai Terminator, basically, like he's shredded to the max. That's because of the good Thai food. He signed with bare knuckle fighting championship, BKFC. Which is surprising because in Muay Thai, as you probably know, it's called the art of 8 limbs. So you're using lots of knees and elbows and clinch and stuff, and kicks obviously. And at bare knuckle fighting, he takes it all away, and it's just bare knuckle boxing. So that was surprising. They must have made him a really good offer. I know BKFC is also here in Thailand, like in Pattaya, active, but it was surprising, like how much money can they pay, and does it make sense? Because do people outside of Thailand tune in to see Buakaw? Wait and see, I guess. There's no storyline for me right now. Like, why would Buakaw do that? There's no old opponent of his that makes sense to go up against. So I don't know how they're gonna sell like Buakaw at BKFC. Maybe he opens an OnlyFans, and I don't know. Curious to see what's going to happen there. Curious to see. Okay, then PFL next event is in August, so I'm not going to talk much about it. But of course, it's already the playoffs for the $1 million tournament, and no one knows about it again. Like PFL, it's a bit better than Bellator, I think, but still, like, could you just be bothered to do some promoting maybe? If you need help, shout out. Okay, last thing here, because we're in Thailand, One Championship is on again this Friday, 159. I'm so happy they stopped giving them stupid names like One Winter Warriors or something. So now they're only numbering it 2. They ran out of names, obviously. The main event is Rainier the Ritter, the double champ against Vitaly Big Dash, which should be interesting. Story-wise, Big Dash, as it comes to smash, which he can. The Ritter is the double champ, so you could be like he comes across a little bit cocky, and he has little bit not from the stature because it's quite lanky, tall and lanky, but from a little bit from interviews he has a little bit of the Gordon Ryan feeling, just a little bit. Just I'm not saying he's super arrogant. But he got like a little bit of a cockiness in his answers or to his answers sometimes, which is nice because if you're the double champ, you're definitely allowed to have this, I think. Co-main is Janet Todd versus Lara Fernandez, whose nickname is Pizza Power. Pizza Monster, Pizza Power, something like this. So clearly rooting for Lara Fernandez there. I assume Janet Todd is going. Maybe at One Championship I should review like the fights a bit because you might not be familiar. So Janet Todd is the women's Muay Thai champion. She dethroned the Thai fighter Stamp Fairtex. She's really good. Like Janet Todd is like, because at One Championship sometimes the levels, like they have really great fighters, but of course the roster isn't like that big, so they sometimes have a few fighters that aren't as great. Maybe Janet Todd from the US is legit. She's great, fantastic Muay Thai fighter. If you want to learn Muay Thai, look at Janet Todd's IG, look at the moves she does, she's awesome. Lara Fernandez, I don't really know that much about her, to be honest. I followed her on Instagram, not like a creep, just to see what she's about, but can't judge because I haven't seen her in actual fights yet. But I do appreciate the nickname, the Pizza Power, Pizza Monster, Pizza something, because pizza is the best food in the world. So it's going to be interesting. I assume, not taking anything away from Lara Fernandez, that Janet Todd's going to put on another Janet Todd masterclass there, because she's awesome. Then the rest of the fighters not that famous or that well known, to be honest. But one of my favorite fighters is fighting. He's fighting a Chinese fighter, Shay, I think. I hope I pronounce it somewhat correctly. It's Daniel Williams from Australia. Daniel Mini T Williams, who always puts on a show. So if you're free Friday, it's Friday evening here in Thailand. So if you're free Friday morning, wherever you are, Or just watch the replays then on YouTube. Danielle Williams, it's Danielle Williams, I believe, so not Danielle with IAL. Nickname Mini T. He always comes he's not there for a long time, he's there for a good time, I would say. He's great. He's great. He always brings action, doesn't leave anything out. He's great. So check this out. Daniel Williams is awesome. And the new, if you really got the time and you want to see the future, there's an up and coming Thai star, kickboxing star, who is a bit different than most Thai fighters, who's really a little bit more of a showman too, which is nice. More like Western style showman, not like just because the Thais they like dance and stuff, but he's more like his name is Samud, and he's got some heavy power in his hands, in his kicks too. So if you want to see like the future of Muay Thai, check out Samud on the lead card. That's how they call it at One Championship. That should be fun. There's not much. Other than that, for One Championship, there's not many stories to be told because they're all about respect and so on. And it's just really the stories. Can Renee de Ridder remain double champ? Will Janet Todd continue her reign as the Muay Thai queen? And that's about it. So there's no real beef just yet. There are a few that are beefing, and I think once we come closer to the next one event in the US, which is in August, I believe, or at least US time on Amazon Prime, then we will see some beef there and some stories, because there's going to be like Demetrius Johnson, Mighty Mouse, having his rematch against Adriano Moraes, who's the champ who KO'd Mighty Mouse with a knee on the ground, which is allowed at One Championship. Soccer kicks, by the way, Joe Rogan, I know you listen. Soccer kicks haven't been allowed ever since way back in the day. It's like he's like, yeah, they're at One FCA. It's not called One FC anymore. It's One Championship. But okay, whatever. They still have onefc.com, which is stupid. But the soccer kick rule has been out of the rule books for a long time already. Okay, so there are no soccer kicks. But yes, there are knees to the grounded opponent. Okay, so that's enough of the MMA podcast this week. Because I see my cat over there destroying everything that's behind the camera. So I have to fight it. By the way, am I the only one who does it sometimes look like that cats can do jiu-jitsu when they're on their back and then they just grab something? Anyways, enough of that. As always, thanks for being here. Let me know what you think about everything that we discussed right now, what you're looking forward to the most. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, because it always helps. Ideally, you also rate the thing on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening. And yeah, as always, stay safe, take care, keep your guard up, and we talk soon. Sawadee Krap.